professor at the ICATS University College and director of Responsible Borneo in Sarawak, Malaysia. Our career path come across one another when I was serving as the chief editor of the Young Consumers. And after 2 years, I find good hands and I hand over the journal to Professor Hiram Ting. And he has been a mentor for a lot of junior faculty members in Malaysia and Indonesia. I watch him how to, he organized a lot of special issues in the journal. By the way, he's the chief, now he's the editor-in-chief of Young Consumer, Asian Journal of Business Research and Journal of Responsible Tourism Management. So I admire him a lot because he is able to manage a lot of tasks together. And in addition to his teaching and administrative work, he's also pushing the boundary of the of our discipline, and also making tourism more responsible. So he's also connecting with the industry with also a strong community sense. His talk today is Infodemic and Responsible Communication.
Thank you, Professor Kara. Thank you so much for the opening words. I'm honored, privileged to be here at HKBU to share something which I plan to do next year. So it's not something that I'm really well versed of. It's something that we have been doing, and we hope we can do more next year. And this afternoon, this session will be more like a discussion to explore what we can do together, and perhaps what we plan to do you might be interested in. Feel free to contact me, contact Professor Ramaya. I'm sure we can learn so much from you and we can do something together. So the topic, Infodemic and Responsible Communication. I will speak for about 30 minutes. I like Professor Ramaya to say something. He has been my mentor for many years, so it's a big thing to say so much in front of him. So anyway, thanks, Prof. So if you look at this picture, how would you interpret? First of all, if you look at this picture, a dog is biting a sheep, a lamb. Do you always see everything? Do you see a bigger picture of the phenomenon? Do you know that there could be more than what you have seen? And that the unseen actually explains what is really happening. No. So, we know this situation, why a narrow perspective might lead us astray in many ways. When we have a bigger picture, a broader perspective, not only we know more, sometimes it even changes the whole narrative. Now, I will skip this. Okay. So this is what I'm going to share with you today. Number one is about infodemic. Number two is about responsible communication. And number three, what are the potential research topics we can explore together. So there's no answers, rather there will be more questions at the end, what we can do together. So what is infodemic? Infodemic, refers to the rapid spread of misinformation, disinformation, often through digital and social media channels, especially in times of crisis. So the most recent crisis would be COVID-19. Many times we say sharing is caring, but do you think sharing is always caring? You might not create false information, but if we, spread false information, then it actually makes the situation even worse. There are a few words. Number one, overload of information disorder. When information is inadequate, we can't really make a good decision. But what if information is abundant, or we are overloaded with information. Imagine, the time, the era we are living in today. We are exposed to so much information every day, every day. What about misinformation? Information which is disseminated and it is thought to be true, misleading content. What about disinformation? Information which is disseminated and it is fabricated, it is manipulated. What about malinformation? Information which is disseminated and it is purposely, deliberately done with malicious intention. So again, we are exposed to so much information every day, and it becomes a pandemic as well, infodemic, because information should be used in a purposeful way for us to process certain data in order to make informed decision. But somehow it does not really lead to correct decision, informed decision all the time. So this is something that my colleagues and I are interested in, and we can look at this phenomenon from different disciplines, from different perspectives. It could be in tourism, it could be in marketing, advertising, health, communication. During COVID-19, there were so many, contents related to vaccination, and when someone or when fake news was spread at that time, it not only resulted in wrong information, wrong decision, it actually caused societal distress. The negative impact could be more than just an individual loss. One of the journals that we aim to talk to prepare a special issue is called Journal of Social Marketing. It is indexed in SSCI, probably Q2, I think, SSCI. When we talk about Journal of Social Marketing, that word social is not really about social media. It is about societal well-being. So this could be something that we look into. Again, we will keep you in the loop. Hopefully we will, get some papers from you, from your colleagues. Okay. Now, why do infodemic frequently occur? Because of rapid information spread, emotional content, anonymous sharing, and that's why sharing is caring. Requires another definition. Lack of media literacy. So these are, the items, the topics which require more investigation because, because it concerns human behavior. It concerns complicated situation whereby we for quantitative researchers we come up with framework. We use example SEM to do modeling in order to explain, predict certain behavior, or we can look into qualitative approach in order to explain or provide more insights into these complex issues. For example, emotional content. Someone posts something on Facebook, on social media because of emotional reason. And in marketing, we have learned that consumers are not always rational. Many times we make irrational decisions. Even in our own experience, we know all this happens all the time. We have people who are very sober-minded, but because of certain situations, he or she shares something on social media. We can't believe it. We can't believe it. In the heat of the moment, People would do something that is so not him, not her. So these are the things we can look into, and my authors and my friends and I certainly will be interested to look into all this. We talk about inadequate communication, ideal risk communication, and too much information disorder, infodemic. So again, information should be, should help us to process data, to make informed decision, but somehow rather we make wrong decisions, and especially during the COVID-19 time. Even my mom always shares something with me, something she saw without authenticating. She cared about her children, and she wanted to make sure we all receive the message. But it's actually a false news. It's actually a false news. And before we authenticate, we like to share immediately. It could be due to we want to be the first who share, or we tag many people because we care for them. Of course, sometimes we might argue, 不怕一万，只怕万一. What if this is true? And then we share. So media literacy is another aspect. Why responsible communication becomes so important, because at the end of the day, how can we make sure our customers, our stakeholders, they have knowledge, they have skills to validate information they receive before they share with others. My kids now, they are born in the digital era, so they know how to use YouTube, Google, some of the tools. I don't know what it is, but they know. My wife doesn't want them to play handphone all the time, but when she wants to edit a video, still she passes the handphone to them to edit the video. And sometimes my boy shared with me so many things he learned from Google. And I told him, this is not true. But no, I saw it from Google. So different generation could be another perspective to look into this. Some years ago, I did a research with the Ministry of Health on medical compliance. Why certain individuals, despite efforts, despite campaigns on purchasing registered health products, they still purchase unregistered health products. Something they saw on Facebook, something they saw online, even though it is not registered by the Ministry of Health, they still purchase it. To cut the story short, one of the segments is the elderly. Their son and daughter might be medical doctor, but sometimes they don't listen to them. Their children have been advising them, take this. It will take time, but don't take the unregistered health products because those will not cure. Still, they purchase unregistered health products. Those in their 70s, those in their 80s. We did this research, pharmaceutical enforcement unit, they spent a lot of money on proactive measure, reactive measure. They raided all these unregistered products, but the more they raid, the more it is in the market. And they spend so much on campaign. They understand, but still they don't comply. Eventually, we found out that these elderly, many times, they rely more on testimonies of those who are of the same age. Why? Yes, I agree, this is good. But when I look at my neighbor, 80 years old, he can eat whatever he wants. He can travel wherever he likes because he takes this unregistered health product. After a few years, he might pass away. He passed away happily. But now I can't eat this, I cannot go there. And then you are telling me I should restrict myself in so many ways. I'm not enjoying my life. Now, it's not about right or wrong. It's about understanding how they interpret your advertisement, your campaign, your message. So this is a research to inform pharmaceutical enforcement officers units in Malaysia whether they should change their way. It seems that they rather listen to their neighbor who enjoys their life more than their son, their daughter, who has been trying, everything possible to restrict their dietary, so on and so forth. Anyway, so the amount of information, how much is enough, how much we should disseminate, the language that we use, and many times even the colors, everything, all these messages we encode and they try to decode in the process. So this was a special issue my friend and I did 2 years. Oh yeah, maybe two years ago, but it was only published online early this year. Fact or fake information, misinformation, and disinformation via social media. So if you're interested, these are the papers you may look at. But in short, these are the 5 things we put forward. Number 1, organizational and regulatory strategies to counter the dissemination of false news on social media. So there must be a clear governance. Again, it's easy said than done. We talk about free press, free speech. So how can we regulate all this? I guess that's why Facebook, TikTok, especially in the US, free speech country, they're always in trouble. The influence of fake news on social media on consumer behavior, their decision making. The correlation between social media, fake news, consumer perceptions of credibility and trustworthiness, and their self-efficacy in relation to purchasing intentions. One thing about something fake is that if it is something intended, they will make sure it looks real. Okay, if I were to tell you, this is Hong Kong dollar, it's actually fake. I must make sure it looks exactly similar, exactly the same. If it looks different, then you will be able to tell this is not the real currency. Okay, so how customers or users a certain credibility, trustworthiness, for example. The phenomenon of an infodemic characterized by disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation in the digital age. And lastly, perceptions of credibility surrounding disinformation and intention to share such content across social media platforms. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I also discussed with some audience about this model called ISAS. It is derived from a model called IDA, attention, interest, desire, action. ISAS because of social media, attention, interest, search. Then you action, use, buy. Lastly, share. Okay. Now, theoretically speaking, we know this is a logical process. Someone who is aware, who becomes aware of something, he will become interested. Because if interested, he will begin to search for more information. He compares, he evaluates, then he takes action, he buys, he uses. Eventually, satisfied or not satisfied, he shares on social media, word of mouth, so on and so forth. But because of social media, even though this is a logical process, many consumers do not necessarily go through these 5 stages. After you become aware of something, you skip interest, you skip search, you skip act, you share directly. which could be a good news to a company. Why? It shortens consumers' decision-making process, especially when you are competing with bigger companies with bigger resources. How can you make sure you manipulate consumers' irrationality? So before they really think through, they already commit the decision and they buy the product from you. So these are the things that we look into. Again, we are living in an age where we are exposed to so much information. Now, very quickly, responsibility. Just look at the highlighted part. Responsibility significantly influence the way individuals behave and make decisions. And there are many articles, but these are two articles which I wrote with my friends. Responsibility is accompanied by three essential elements. Number one, norms that determine accountability. Number two, freedom or free will to act as a rational agent. And lastly, results that can be either praiseworthy or blameworthy. So when we talk about responsibility, it very much concerns our decision, our behavior, our action. Okay, and that's why it concerns individual behavior. It also concerns collective action. For example, the hotel I stay, when I go somewhere, should I keep the air conditioner on? It's something that I have to make decision. Am I a responsible tourist, a responsible client? At the same time, from the macro perspective, it can also be seen. We can also look at organizational action, because if two countries come together, whether it is a bilateral talk or summit, congress, they shake hands, they take photos. Let's say this is a conference on climate change. What matters at the end is who is actually responsible for what. The political will to cooperate is crucial. Is crucial because different countries, different companies, we are different in many ways. And many times we need to put aside our self-interest. Why? Because we see a common goal, which is more important than our individual objective. Malaysia, comparatively, might be less affected by certain things compared to Hong Kong, compared to some other countries, island countries. But again, it concerns collective action to drive change. So this is also about responsibility. Another good article about responsibility and how it is connected to tourism. One of the projects that I'm currently doing. First is the awareness agenda action implementation phase. So this is something that we are more familiar with. We must become aware. Then there must be agenda, eventually how it leads to action. The second trigger is the social psychological aspect. And the third trigger is the right to quality visitor experience. And this is something that profoundly affects tourism. So for tourism, many times we might point our fingers at the tourists, visitors. You should do this, you should not do that. The do's and the don'ts. However, this is a complicated, complex issue where all stakeholders have to play a part. So, just now we talked about communication. Who should be responsible? And this is something that all stakeholders are involved. The social media, the users, the persons who created, and people who share, who disseminate in the process. So if I saw something, if I authenticate, I validate, eventually I found that this is false, then this will stop with me. This will stop with me. At least this is a small decision I can make. So these are some of the things we can look into. Now, responsible tourism. The reason is because this is something I shared with my tourism minister as well. I was quite fortunate. He was not upset because of this. I told him tourism is not the goal. Tourism is not the goal. Responsible tourism is not another tourism product. It is not another tourism label. We have too many labels. We have sustainable tourism, green tourism, regenerative tourism, slow tourism. Enough. What it is actually a message, a call to action. Why tourism should be seen as a means, not a goal, to drive positive change. Why tourism? Because tourism is such a dynamic industry. Almost everyone is involved. You don't have to be a tourism scholar to understand tourism. We stay at a hotel, we go to a restaurant, we visit Malaysia, Bali, now I'm here in Hong Kong. We experience tourism, we experience hospitality. You don't have to be a scholar. Then how can we use tourism rather to be used by tourism to advocate responsibility, to advocate sustainability, to advocate responsible communication? I remember during COVID time, there was a fake news about AirAsia. A lot of people believe it and they shared. In fact, AirAsia had to make a press, a media official to clarify this is not from them. Okay, I can't remember what exactly it is. Prof, can you remember AirAsia? I think like free flight or something.
They were written. They said if you have money with AirAsia, better take it out because they give credit.
Okay.
Outside, not everything. They said they are going to close down.
You can imagine the distress it caused, the confusion it caused, unnecessary confusion. So similarly, we talk about sustainable tourism. We talk about sustainable development goals, which are all great. But at the same time, what is important as well is before we reach our goal, in all honesty, we will not reach SDG by 2030. I think there are already many reports. 2050 maybe, 2070 maybe, at the rate things are going. What about the process? The goals are important, but what about the process? And process, again, concerns behavioral change. It concerns collective actions. It concerns responsibility, responsible communication. Or else, there's another report. It would not be a surprise if something as serious as COVID would happen again. We created them. We come up with technology to solve them. Before long, we create another problem and we have to find solutions again to solve them. I remember not long, in 2020, there was a news from Vietnam, a press, almost in a boastful way, they claim there is no local transmission in the first 100 days. Not long after that, it only takes one person to be irresponsible to cause the outbreak. That's why we have a term, no one is safe until everyone is safe. We may all comply our rules and regulations, but sometimes it only takes one person to be irresponsible and it spoils the whole thing. We are all in trouble because of you. So again, it is a complex issue and it requires cooperation from all stakeholders. So these are some of the things. Again, in research, we look into all these items, concepts, variables, but from the perspective of responsible communication, we may consider all these again. Number one, priorities and context. SDG example, SDG number 2, SDG number 12, it may be important in your place. It might be less important in another place because our context is different. Our priorities are different. We don't have unlimited resources, and therefore we must prioritize. We agree all SDGs are important, but when we have limited resources, we have different contexts compared to Bangkok, Jakarta, and other places. What should we prioritize? And how can we involve multiple stakeholders in an effective way so all of us can work together as equal partners? Again, easy said than done, but this is something we have to explore in order to make a real impact on the society. What about trust and respect? In marketing, in management studies, we have measurement for all these concepts, operationalized definitions. Do we need to relook into all this? Trust and respect, because when two companies work together, when two countries work together, we are different in many ways, but how can we ensure we work together with trust and respect? If I don't trust a person, I can still, quote, work with him. We have MOU, we have agreement, nothing wrong with MOU, just an example, okay? But that's the scope of our agreement. But when we have trust, yes, we may have a formal agreement, but our conversation is not limited by, what is written black and white. We talk about so many things. We have dim sum, yum cha, and then we talk about other projects, and then we elaborate, we develop more possibilities because trust is there. Similarly, when I work with local communities, those in the rural areas, even though I went, one particular project some years ago, I went there with the so-called TOR, Terms of Reference, a project approved by the government. The first thing I did is I put aside all these TOR. The first thing I did, I wanted to know who the community leaders are, and multiple visit. The purpose is to make friends with them, to earn their trust. If I go there, I tell them TOR approved by the government, they may still cooperate, but it will limit a lot of communication. They will not tell you a lot of things. They don't trust you enough. One time, one lady, local authority, asked me this question: are you here because of another grant?
Another grant?
Another grant.
Oh, okay.
Because before that, university went there. They went there because of a grant. After a while, they did not go anymore. The community asked, hey, you have been doing such a great work. Why don't you come again? They replied, because our grant has finished. So this is something, we have to reconsider. Again, it's not about right or wrong. But when we deal with human beings, they have sentiments. They may cooperate with you. They may share something that you request. Communication is not 100%. It's not 100%. They already, they reserve something. They do not want to tell you everything. So let me proceed. So this is a project during COVID. That's why you see Zoom. We did a project in Southeast Asia to develop a responsible tourism framework. And if you look at the bottom of the framework, foundation, number 4, effective communication. We can talk about our goals. We can talk about all the marvelous, impressive goals. But if we overlook values, or this one, virtues, attributes, we may still be able to do it, but it might not be as effective as we wanted. So these are the things that we have been looking into. So let me conclude with two or three more slides. So what is responsible communication? It refers to the deliberate practice of sharing clear, accurate, timely information, especially during times of crisis, to increase public understanding and guide the public toward informed decision making, as opposed to infodemic, information disorder. And the second paragraph is about the negative impact of infodemic. And number three, communicators must take responsibility for checking the facts before sharing any message. So during the times of crisis, people need clarity, they need certainty, and if information is not enough, they will not be able to make informed decision. And like it or not, there is a vacuum in them that stimulates their desire to know the truth. So if they are fed with misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, then this will be the problem. If they share, then it makes the situation even worse. So researchers, scholars, we should be, I told my colleagues, my students as well, we should be more sober-minded in many ways. Unfortunately, when things happen, we are also affected. Then we make irrational decision, which is okay. But again, the point is communication through social media. And we harbor fake news. And it makes the situation even worse. The last point is something that we can also look into. This could be the topics that we would like to propose to our special issue. Another special issue I would like to propose. I talked to him 2 days ago, Professor Timothy Lee, International Journal of Tourism Research, Editor-in-Chief, I believe SSCI Q1. He wanted me to become his regional editor. So I said, then we have to negotiate. I want a special issue next year. He said, okay. So it will be something on tourism in connection to infodemic, misinformation, malinformation, disinformation. These are 5 potential topics, but I'm not really confirmed yet. But let's go through briefly. Countering misinformation with accuracy and honesty, building trust through transparency, promoting digital literacy and critical thinking, which is very important. And it is something that we have to inculcate our younger generation today. Same with my students in marketing and advertising classes. They learn the subject, but they don't seem to really know how to utilize and be innovative and be responsible at the same time. So sometimes their talents could be misused. Digital thing, it could be used for positive reasons, it could be used for negative reasons. So digital literacy, critical thinking, how can we assess this? How can we improve all this through our research? It could be a longitudinal study, it could be an experimental design. And for many years, I have been encouraging my colleagues, my students, to talk to practitioners, to learn from practitioners, to make your issues more interesting, rather than something too simplistic or too highly intuitive. Yesterday, I looked at a proposal of a student from China. I think Prof. Ramaya also commented on her work. I told her it's highly intuitive. She used TAN and TPB, perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, even though the product might be new. It's only context. We already know if all these are, if a person is in favor in all this, the intention will be higher. It's already highly intuitive. We already know the answer before you do your research. The way you design it, we already know. So this is something we hope we would receive some good papers that would go beyond something that is highly intuitive. Engaging proactively to prevent misinformation. Again, how can we look at this through the stakeholder perspectives, from the policy making aspect, from businesses, suppliers, and last but not least, encouraging reliable two-way communication. How can we ensure communication is done in an effective way? Comments, feedback, are always channeled in an effective way to improve this communication efficiency. So I guess that's all. This is another special issue in the past with Professor Kara. This special issue is already done, okay, so no more. But what I like to highlight is young consumer, young people, because they use social media a lot more than many of us. And many times they may say less, they type more, including interview. For many years I learned interview must be done at the natural setting. But during during COVID, there's no way to interview a person in a personal way, so we use Zoom. Then, what about teenagers? When I interview them, they have nothing much to tell you. But when you use social media, they become keyboard warriors. They will tell you everything, anything. So again, the characteristics of the population, the change of business landscape, contemporary issues, these are things that we reconsider how we innovate methods. At the end of the day, it's about collecting valid data to provide more robust explanation and prediction. So young consumers, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, and they make a lot of decisions. I have kids, so that's why I feel that change. I sometimes wonder, in the past, when my parents asked me, would you like to go out to take a walk? Oh, yes, sure, we don't want to stay at home anymore. Now I ask my daughter, let's go out. So very, very concerning. So I have to communicate in a different way to encourage her to go out with me, so that I can spend more time, especially now I'm in Hong Kong. So when I go back, I have to compensate my time with them. I need to bring them out, and then last time, if my parents brought me to zoo or just to eat, to whatever, very happy. Now they will ask, where? Is it another bubble tea shop or whatever? Okay, so the landscape has changed a lot. How we communicate with young people effectively. Earlier on, I talked about elderly people, now young generation. So there's no answer to all these questions. In fact, there should be more questions for us to look into. And these are two potential special issues we hope we will be able to secure next year. One with Journal of Social Marketing. Another one would be International Journal of Tourism Research. I welcome submissions from you, and definitely we want to gain more ideas, more inputs from you, how we can make this research better and how we can improve responsible communication. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hiram. Let's also give some time for Professor Ramaya to introduce himself or his work. In addition to all his visiting professorship position, he has an H index of 123 and citation of over 62,000 in Google Scholar. So for those who are crazy about getting more visibility in Google Scholar or getting higher index, maybe he can share with us some of his tricks.
Tricks, experience.
Trade.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I actually didn't prepare anything. This is what I did in the Macau conference. I'm currently based in USM. This is my website. You can look at them. So this is the website that I did many years ago for my off-campus students. I had lots of off-campus students. They had problems connecting with me, so I started the website in year 2000. The website is www.ramai.com. This is I'm paying on my own every year, not with the university. Yeah? So what I do is most of the things I have, I update on this web page. Currently, I'm a chief editor of this journal called Asian Academy of Management Journal, which is a Q3 journal. The problem with this journal is it is hosted by the university, so the rules and regulations are very rigid. So I cannot change very much. I actually became the editor recently also for the reason because they wanted somebody with visibility. The previous chief editor was actually not very visible. So they want somebody with a visibility. So the VC wrote a letter to the dean to appoint me. And that's how I came back. I was actually editor of this journal in 2003. I changed we had 20 editorial board members. I changed 19. So the dean was not very happy with me because his friends all got removed. So after 2 years, he removed me. And then in 2021, I became the editor again. And I saw that the same 20 people I appointed in 2003 were still the editorial board members. So I again fired another 19. I only retained one lady called Mariana Sigala. Mariana Sigala, she's a big name in tourism. So that's how I'm trying to push the journal, but unfortunately it's still not happening. So this is the two chief editors. She's actually the dean of the school now. She was my MBA student. So I'm actually reporting to my students. And that's how long I've been at the School of Management. Okay. So these are the editorial board of the journal. We have Hare, England. You are familiar with Hare, right? Joseph Hare? Okay, he's like a god in the area of research for multivariate data analysis. He's like the god. He has 500,000 citations. Joseph Hare.
Yes.
500,000 citations. He's like the god in multivariate data analysis. These guys are in PLS analysis. Sustain level. Yogesh Dwivedi is the chief editor of a journal called the National Journal of Information Management. Impact factor now is 20. Okay, so this is the lady I was telling you, Mariana Sigala. And this is one guy you may want to follow. In marketing, he's like a big name now. Lim Wang Ma. Very young guy. Okay, he writes a lot of papers in good journal. He's the dean of Sunway Business School in Malaysia. I also wrote in this lady, Zhu Qinghua from China because we wanted a representation from different countries. Okay, so I will skip this. And then I'm also The acceptance rate is about 5% on that. I'm now currently just rejecting 90% of the papers because we get 500 papers in a year. So only 10% will go and then 5% accept. No? So this is the journal currently. This is the story that I started with Hiram. If you see here, this was in 2010. No? Hiram was a PhD student in Unimas, I think. Yeah? And then we see all these people were PhD students at that time. No? They used to attend my workshops, and then one day they told me, why not we write a manual? That's how we started writing a manual. And then in 2016, they said, why not we start? 2016, we started writing this manual called PLS. How many of you are familiar with Smart PLS? You're on a different planet, I think. You need to somehow pick up. This is a software now like very popular around the world called Smart PLS. Smart PLS. Okay. So we started writing the manual in 2016, and then in 2018 we revised the second edition. It's very, very popular. Many people write to me to ask about this. And then in 2017 they said, why not we start a journal? So that's how we started the conference. In 2019 we had a conference, and then we have been continuing the conference until 2023. I think next year we will be doing it in Macau.
Very likely.
Very likely, yeah. So that's the story. So you see, when in 2019 it was 2020 it was in Q3. Yeah? Now it's in Q1. This is a free journal. You don't have to pay. Yeah? But you must be using some analysis of structural equation modeling for the journal. Okay, so that's the journal. So the editorial board members, Hiram and me are the chief editors, but the guy who running the show is this guy called Mumtaz. So what happened is because of this collaboration, and most of them are now associate professors or professors. When they started, they were PhD students. So I actually worked with many of my PhD students. And if you see this, we have come to this stage now. In the world of Smart PLS or PLS analysis, these are the top 10 authors in productivity. Top four of them are from Malaysia. That's how far we have come in terms of methodology. And we see these two guys are the developers of the software called Smart PLS. And here is like the guy I was citing. And now he's citing me. So we have come to that stage in Malaysia. And this is the guy I would recommend you to look out for. He's writing lots of paper in methodology. Jackie Chia. He was in Malaysia, but unfortunately the university didn't promote him. He moved to UK. Now he's an associate professor in UK.
Mid-30s. In his mid-30s.
Very young.
Okay.
And we see this productivity map of PLS analysis, right? This is the big group of people from Germany. The people who develop the software. These are the two groups who work with me. This group is a guy called Mustafa, who was a PhD student in USM. Now he's a professor in Edinburgh University. If you are in tourism, he's like the big guy in tourism. He's associate editor manager. Okay, so this guy, Mustafa. This is the group that worked me for when they were PhD students. Hiram, Jackie, Mumtaz, and Francis' name is missing somehow. Okay. So I have two names because when I first started, my full name is Ramaya Turasami. So the citation is Turasami R. And now I changed. I put a T in front. T full stop, then Ramaya. So that's how the name became Ramaya T. So these are some of my PhD students that I started working with. Now they have already started their own careers. So I'm actually very lucky in that sense. Jackie is still working with me. Hiram is still working with me. Mumtaz is still writing some papers with me. And Mustafa is still in contact with me. So if you work closely with your PhD students, you will get many more things in return. Thank you. So any question?
So let's open up the floor for questions. For those who attend the talk online as you can type your questions.
I just have a quick question. I would like to know a bit more about the effective communication in the context of responsible tourism. Just maybe some examples, because I feel like different industry, different disciplines are used relatively the same term, but we probably do not mean the same thing. So I would like to know, like Professor Ting, what's your definition or your example when you talk about effective communication in the context of responsible tourism?
There are two ways to look at it. One is from research point of view, based on what has been done, what is in the literature. The other aspect is more on the practical side, something which I'm more interested in at the moment, because at the end of the day, it's also about how we can improve knowledge, understanding, and whatever we come up with, we also want to make sure it is of practical value on the ground. Now, I mentioned earlier, one thing that we did when we communicate with the local people, because that is the place, a village where we want to use tourism to revitalize the place, to preserve the culture, nature, so on and so forth. The intangible thing, which is how can we earn the trust, that is one thing that we work on. Now, there is no formula how to communicate. It's about how you, in a layman term, make friends with them. One thing we have been doing is we talk to elderly people in rural community. Now, many of these elderly, they might think that I have nothing else to do. I do a bit of gardening. I take care of grandchildren. My days are numbered, you know. But when we go to these rural areas to develop tourism products, apart from the local authorities, we would approach them first. We will tell them, you are our national treasure, because your aging is a privilege. It doesn't matter whether your story is true or not. We like to know your story. We're interested to learn from you. That communication allows them or encourages them to talk, to tell us. The more they say, they talk rather than listening to us, you can see the happier they become. And the moment they begin to tell us, can you wait? I want to go to my bedroom to take something to show you. Then it is a good sign. They trust you. They will bring out all the, I don't know, shilling, coins, or whatever they keep for many, many, many years. We document their stories. We interview them. Then we include their stories in our documents, in our writing on the website. So this is what we have been doing, especially in regards to rural tourism, something which I need to speak about in the next 2 days in Japan. Elderly consultation. Consult them. Don't lecture them. Don't tell them what is right, what is wrong. And when you communicate with them, let them tell you more, tell you stories, because that process, really facilitates trust. And when they trust you, they will tell others. So before we move to another project, in other places, those elderly, those community leaders in that area, they already know us. And they already welcome us with open arms. That's how powerful these elderly people can be. So that simple thing, it unpacks a lot of possibilities. Literature-wise, maybe communication, all of you would know better, would know more, know more than me. But this is what we learn. We have been doing in tourism project, how we communicate and why we communicate with elderly in that case.
So elderly, in a sense, is your stakeholders, right?
Yes.
Not your consumer, but your stakeholders.
They are one of our stakeholders.
Yeah.
We one of our projects, we divide into five categories. Number one, community leaders and members. Number two, local authorities. Number three, elderly. Number four, women. Number five, school, teachers and students. We not visitors, customers, but these five groups first, to make sure that this tourism product is developed with community in the frame, with them, not for them. We do it with them, so they are empowered to carry on. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for the sharing insightful talk. So I'm interested in the misinformation part. I wonder how to combat the misinformation in the real world setting. So my understanding for the misinformation, to combat misinformation, you need to compare with the truth, the ground truth. But even for normal people, I mean, even for me, myself, I don't know the truth when I receive the misinformation. So I can really understand those my relatives, parents, that they like forward anything to me, and then I can understand that. But I wonder in the practical setting, so how to really combat them by grab those ground truths. It's really costly to identify the locate ground truths, those evidence-based truths. So I wonder any comments on that.
In Malaysia, we have I think in Malaysia we started a helpline, we call it. Any information before you share, they say you can actually verify with this helpline. It's in a website base. You just send them, they will verify for you.
Who is verifying
the
those?
Ministry of Communication. We call it MCMC.
I see. So
in Malaysia.
When you share the information,
before you share, they said
before the sharing.
during COVID they were seeing lots of this information sharing which were not correct. They started this service from the ministry that any information before you share, you can check with us through the online.
Will it be a cost? Because I think it is sort of delaying the communication process.
Because they say many people are not even verifying. So straight away you want to share. So now we have another layer that you can actually straight away upload this to the website, and then they will verify. There are people working to check it.
So it's sort of like the fact checking the agency. Right? So they use human fact checker.
We talk about media literacy. So individually speaking, how can we improve a person's media literacy? So this is something that we can look into. Again, I have no answer to your question. Perhaps I look forward to receiving your paper next year, so that we can. But like what Prof. Ramaya said earlier, there are some external supporting tools like helpline and all that. How instantaneous, how immediate. Again, it also depends on how urgent this matter is. But again, during COVID-19 time, there wasn't even an official way to verifying. So at least this is something useful. But what about situations whereby urgent, immediate responses are needed? So again, these are things that we would like to know more actually. You're asking a good question, what we can do, and whether these sources can be trusted. Of course, if it is something from the ministry, a certain level of credibility is there.
I think the Malaysian government was doing lots of advertisement in TVs and other media. But when you receive information, what is the process of verifying it? The step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You're doing that or not? They saw people sharing without even thinking.
Yeah, just a quick comment. So, to echoing your comments, and so well appreciated. So I also observed those a human-driven power for fact-checking, right? So like the many fact-checking agency all the world. So when investigating them, so but basically all of them, they are done by human experts, right? But I wonder, so maybe it's not comparable to the scale of the error generated misinformation. So yeah, for example, when I use WeChat or WhatsApp, right, I receive many messages shared by many acquaintances, right? So I think you need to add some layer, right?
Yeah.
So between when you share the misinformation, and that should be done immediately, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, is something that a person has to take responsibility. But this is something that we will always talk about, because it seems that we never learn from our failures, our history. It's just a matter of how costly it is. If it is less costly, then people will be more willing to make immediate decision without fact checking. But if it is something more costly, then the awareness and all that. And now our younger generation, they are more exposed. They use a lot more social media and communicate through these platforms. Again, something we have to look into, to scale up or to go deep into this.
Because of the timing, we entertain the last question, right?
Thank you. Thanks for your very fruitful sharing. I'm very interested in the communication among different generations. Parents help children, and children, especially the younger generation or the adults, help their parents, their older family members. It is very insightful, and this is my research interest. Older adults advertising literacy, and how older adults to recognize sponsored content and non-sponsored content. And I'm curious about if your and your college in the future study, which method would you prefer to explore how older adults recognize misinformation? Maybe observation study to set a camera in their room if available or if ethical, or experimental study, one group with family mediation, one group without family mediation, or interview different perspective, or such as interview the younger generation and the older family members. So I'm curious about which method do you prefer to explore this research question? Thank you.
I'll say something first, then Prof. Ramaya can say further. For our special issues, or for any of our papers, we look at your research problem, your research questions first. Then only we will determine whether your methods are appropriate. So we don't really have a preference. We look at your problem, your design, to determine whether your methods are appropriate. If interview is the most appropriate data collection technique, by all means use it. If experimental design is more suited because of the nature of your research problem, then by all means use it. So no preference, actually, no preference. Look at your research problem, your research questions. In many ways, look at the characteristics of your population as well. What will be the most effective way to elicit data for your study? Yeah, so I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you.
I think qualitative will be slightly more difficult to get that kind of information for what you are planning to do, right? Whether they actually share because of some reason. The experimental design will be better because you can actually design intervention. Then you can try it out and see which one gives you better results. So the intervention will come from the experimental design. So you have two different designs of experiment. Then you can see which one works better. I think that will work with the problem you have at hand.
There was a study, I don't think we published that study. We want to look at communication between 3 generations, grandfather, father, and son. And therefore we call it triad interview, TRIAD, triad interview. 3 persons, but we treat these 3 persons as one unit of measurement. Because this is the way to cross-check whether what is inherited, what is transmitted really happens. If we do interviews separately, they may say something differently, which could be useful. But if you want to know whether certain things, certain values are really communicated, transmitted to the next generation, so in that particular study, we treat these 3 generations as one unit of measurement, triad interview. So they have to be present together, and sometimes they may quarrel. You learned this from me, no, I didn't. And then from there we'll be able to know what really happens.
Again, back to the same question. The problem you're trying to address, right? The problem Prof. Hiram is saying is a different thing. You want to cross-validate it. I usually talk about this in my classes also. Like you want to make decision between husband and wife, right? If you interview them separately, both will say, I make the decision. But you put them together, you can see a fight, right? And see who will agree. If that is the problem. Like your problem is saying what kind of intervention will work better. Then experimental design.
Very useful.
So on behalf of the Center of what is this? We have the center, yes. Well, on behalf of the Center for Media and Communication Research, we thank all of you for attending this seminar. And so hopefully you will be in touch with our speakers again. Yeah, thank you. So before we start, I would like to take this opportunity for him to honor one of our authors with the Outstanding Paper Award for the Young Consumer last year.